So a common issue, I think, with people that are implementing marketing strategies for their business is failing to realize the holistic overview of a very successful marketing campaign, which really boils down to having a proper funnel in place. And a marketing funnel is really just comprised of a bunch of different steps that you want to optimize the whole experience from basically a lead turning into a paying client. So there's a lot of steps, and oftentimes it takes just one kink in the whole process for the whole thing to be a disaster. So the purpose of this demonstration is to just change your thinking and have you guys realize that if there's a problem with step one, it doesn't make sense to try and optimize for step 4 because you're not there yet. So let's draw this together, and this is just going to be a very basic marketing funnel. So we have the first step over here, which is going to be the ad. So we'll write ad, all right? And then after people click on that ad, they're gonna get brought to a landing page, most likely, right? So this is where people, can enter in their name, email, phone number, that kind of thing, and there's gonna be some type of call to action. So after someone fills out a form on either a landing page or your website, what have you, they're then gonna get brought to the communication part. So this could be either a phone call, so we'll draw a little phone. This could be an email, maybe you send an email out as your first touch point, or it could just simply be a text message too. All right, so this is your communication platform. So we'll write that. All right, so this is the first inquiry that you decide to do when either you reach out to your lead or your lead reaches out to you. Okay, so it could go both ways. Then after that, it's going to be an appointment booked. So let's draw a little calendar over here. And then after you book an appointment with this lead, then it's going to be a scheduled job, right? Let's draw a little money symbol over there. This is going to be the job. So this is when you actually show up to the person's home, do your service, and then afterwards, this is when we convert these initial jobs into recurring clients, right? All right, so this is a very fundamental marketing funnel. This is pretty much a standard journey of what a person who's online, who's hearing about your company for the first time, is likely going to go through. And I think a lot of business owners don't really think about it in this way. They just think about it as two parts, which is essentially, let me throw some type of marketing campaign out, whether it's a Google ad, maybe it's a flyer, maybe it's a radio ad, whatever. And then they look at part B, which is, well, am I getting new business from it or not? But it's important for us to really dial into each of these steps individually, because now we can optimize along the journey and make sure that we're as profitable as possible. So when we look at the first step, which is an ad, a lot of times people struggle here. So if you're not getting any clicks onto your ad and ultimately no leads, then most likely there's something wrong with your ad. So we already know that maybe your cost per click is too high. Maybe you're not getting any clicks. It just seems like no one's really engaging with it. So this could be a lot of different things. This could be either your offer isn't dialed in, maybe your audience, you're reaching out to the wrong audience. That could create these issues too. Maybe you need to update your photos or your videos if you're using more of a creative ad. So all of these things can really affect the experience and be a result as to why people are not clicking on your ad. But let's just assume that you have your ad portion dialed in and people are making it to your landing page, but now no one's converting. So no one's filling out their information and clicking submit, or no one's calling you, or what have you. Now you know that it's a landing page issue. Because if you're getting a very good click-through rate on your ad, that means you have this part dialed in. However, something is wrong with your landing page if you're losing leads here. So this is an opportunity to focus on. And oftentimes what you'll see with the landing page is that, again, it's either not optimized for conversions, there's no clear call to action, maybe there's a lot of different tabs and buttons that your leads are getting lost in and ultimately not converting. Maybe there's not congruency with your ad and your landing page. So in other words, if you're using a specific color scheme on your ad and then your landing page is totally different, or maybe there's a mix match with the language that you're using on your ad versus your landing page, now people could significantly drop off because they're losing a little bit of that trust with you. So that's a big reason why oftentimes landing pages won't convert. So those are just a few points, but some things to keep in mind. So then let's just assume that you have the landing page portion dialed in, but then you're getting a lot of submissions, you're getting a lot of leads. However, you're noticing that out of all the leads come in, ultimately none of them you're getting a hold of. So this is, again, the initial communication, and I should really write that down, initial communication, because this is where a lot of people struggle to get response rates. So if you know that of all of the leads that come in, only a very tiny percentage of them actually ultimately respond, then we need to focus on this. Maybe your promptness to responding needs to be increased. Maybe you need to follow up more times to get a hold of these leads. You'll often find that with a lot of online advertising. Maybe if you're using email as your primary source to get a hold of these leads, it might make more sense to jump to a phone call or a text message. So these are probably the most basic reasons as to why you struggle with getting that initial communication point. Now let's assume that you are getting a hold of the leads, but you're struggling to convert them to appointments. So oftentimes, a lot of the points that I just described on this previous step on the funnel are pretty synonymous with getting appointments scheduled, because again, it's going to make sure that you're following up with your leads in a timely fashion, you're answering their questions and what have you. But usually it's the reason why you might struggle to convert appointments also has to deal with the fact that these leads often have some questions in their mind and they're not really ready to pull the trigger. So if you're just trying to jump in, guns blazing and get these appointments scheduled right away without really answering their questions first and providing value, then yes, you very much so might see that you're going to experience a drop off because these people are basically stalling. So those are probably the most common ones I've seen. Another issue could just be that your appointment scheduling process is maybe just bad on your end. Now let's assume you have all of these steps in place, but now you're struggling with that job. So maybe when you show up to the person's home, you're finding that there's a bit of a mismatch between the job that you described on the phone or via text message or whatever the communication platform was with their expectations. So like I just said, this often happens if a client's angry or upset at the work, staff shows up late, and just overall, the first job just has a poor experience. So a lot of this will come down to client expectations. So maybe it's important for you to really address those ahead of time. If it's a tardiness issue or something going on with your client basically being unhappy before or upon arrival from your staff, well then it's probably something you have to fix internally with maybe setting better expectations with your staff too. An easy way to kind of put your client at ease could be implementing things like reminder texts, countdown texts and emails before their appointment so that they're basically notified along the way. A lot of clients really appreciate things like this. There's a lot of things too that could be wrong with why that initial job might be a poor experience. Maybe your staff's not trained the best. Maybe you find that the client is requesting more than described, or maybe there was something back here in the funnel where you mentioned that you were going to be using organic, eco-friendly cleaning products, for example, but you actually show up with a lot of more commercial, harsh chemical type cleaning supplies. So there's a lot of things that could be wrong, but I think ultimately it's really going to come down to setting those expectations properly if you are experiencing a poor job experience. And last but not least, this is where a lot of people struggle, and this is going to be converting these initial jobs over here into recurring clients. So this is really going to come down to having, good customer service, making sure that you're in front of your clients from the very start of their appointment to even, several weeks after you completed their clean. So this could be done by, doing follow-up phone calls. This could be sending satisfactory emails, asking them to leave you a Google review to kind of solidify their experience. Things like this really go a long way. Of course, there's going to be other things too, like do you provide a quality service? There's not much you could really do from a marketing standpoint to fix that, but at least that if that's truly your bottleneck, well, it's going to take a little bit more work internally with you and your team to make sure that box is checked. So what we've essentially just done is really mapped out the whole marketing funnel in its entirety. And again, the purpose of this video is to show you that if one of these steps is basically broken, well, it doesn't make sense to focus on any of these things that come after it, because that means that something is broken here, and this is what you guys need to focus on. So going back to my theme of knowing your KPIs and those metrics that you need to hit on a day-to-day basis, this really proves to why knowing this stuff is so valuable, because it allows you to optimize on, from a day-to-day basis and make sure that you're making money with your marketing.